Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and if you don't cooperate, you're going to suffer from fistophobia. Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. Hello, my friend.
How am I? Fuck you. That's how I am.
That's a good one, too.
I'm sure that's a line in there.
Yeah, let's say it is. We're dorking out about 1988's Midnight Run, which is currently streaming on the Criterion Channel and Peacock, actually. I looked it up. It stars Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin, Yaphet.
Kotto,
thank you. John Ashton, totally forgot he was in here. We got Joey Pants, Dennis Farina. This is a good one.
My Chicago crush.
Yes. This was such a good rewatch. Did you see Midnight Run in the theater?
I did, and I could. I don't know if you remember. I remember the laughs, like the first time I saw this, because this was a hit movie that summer.
Yes, and De Niro did not do comedy really before this. He had done like King of Comedy or whatever. And that's dark. That's not this. Like this was like a mainstream De Niro being funny. We hadn't really seen De Niro like this, so I saw this in the theater, and I will freely admit, to me, this is the hottest De Niro. This and
Godfather 2. Very hot De Niro.
Like to me, this is like even hotter De Niro to me. I think maybe it's because there's a little bit of salt and pepper going. I don't know, but I'm sorry. Maybe we don't need to objectify people, but he's hot to me in this movie. He plays a bounty hunter named Jack who just needs to capture this accountant who's on the run, and the accountant is Jonathan the Duke. I'm like, why does he have a nickname? Mardukas, and that's Charles Grodin, and he needs to bring him back to Los Angeles from New York. I mean, that's the plot, really. It's pretty simple, and I fucking loved this movie. I hadn't rewatched it in a long time. I was like, it still plays, and I think it's because there's some action in it. The jokes work. The characters are still really funny, the way they interact. And there's like heart to this comedy that I had forgotten about, to be honest. Like I remembered like a lot of the jokes, but I had forgotten about there's some touching moments in this movie that I think work. I like it.
I mean, it's a buddy comedy, but they're not friends. They don't really trust each other. I mean, so it starts with Robert De Niro. He's a guy he's a bail bondsman. He picks people up that are on the run or going to be on the run. He's asking for $100,000 to pick up the Duke, which is Charles Grodin, which makes me laugh. Charles Grodin, by the way, doesn't do action movies. He's a comedy guy.
Yeah.
That's part of the joke. He's hilarious in this movie.
So funny and like just
funny.
Perfectly cast.
Yeah.
Charles Grodin. Like he's like, this is like the best use of Charles Grodin. Like, yeah, because he does have like a very specific kind of delivery in the way like he just behaves that they just they just tap into it. It's like perfect. This is perfect.
He's deadpan. He's very, and he picks him up. He's in Brooklyn, 13 Remsen Street.
I was going to ask, how close to you is that house?
It's in between the Sentinel house, the horror movie, The Sentinel, and the Moonstruck house. It's like right in between there. And he picks him up, and I'm like, how is this not kidnapping? But okay, because he takes him at gunpoint.
Yes.
And takes him away. He steals Yaphet Kotto's. That was the joke I was going to make. Hey, Agent Foster Grant. Like that was. There's some jokes here. Like I remember in the movie theater, people cracking the fuck up. And is it really funny? I don't know. De Niro didn't do comedy. He had just done. He played Al Capone. He had done. He done like very intense roles.
Yeah, right before this, he had done Al Capone in The Untouchables. And he had also been in Angel Heart. These movies are dark. And he was like, and he had like really, De Niro loves to like do all the method stuff. He loves to like put on weight and take off weight. And I remember like he was really big for Untouchables and Angel Heart. Like he had put on a whole bunch of weight. And then he like lost a bunch of weight for this. And I was like, what diet is Robert De Niro on? I want to be on that diet. Like,
looking slim, looking good.
Because he looks
it's
good.
A caffeine diet. He's just smoking the whole time.
True.
And I was that got me like thinking about smoking and how many times did I used to, because this is the thing, like, God, we used to smoke everywhere. There was
my God.
There's no stopping it. Everybody smokes everywhere in people's faces, and nobody says they can't do it. Yaphet Kotto is the FBI agent, and then there's the dad from My So-Called Life.
That's totally what I know him from.
He's adorable. He's so young and cute.
Everybody drink.
So there's 4 agents trying to get him. Then there's Joey Pants, who's the boss for.
He's the bail bondsman.
Yeah. So he's going to give him the money to do this. And we find out that Robert De Niro used to be a Chicago cop.
Mm-hmm.
And then so he and Charles Grodin, basically they're going to fly out to LA, and Charles Grodin fakes a panic attack. And how much did you want to fly on that plane? Like, is that what first class was in 1988?
I'm like, that first class.
Sign me up.
Look, I have flown first class exactly once. It was on my way home from New York, and it was because they upgraded me. Like, they did. Like, they were like, we have room for you in first class, and they moved me up and gave someone else my seat. And it's nice. It's nice to fly in first class.
Yes,
it's not like that though. I mean, they were like it's totally open. He's smoking on the plane. Talk about the smoking. Like, he's smoking everywhere. He's smoking on the. Can you imagine people smoking on the plane? The idea that there were
I remember people did.
There was like, and this was in restaurants everywhere. Y'all ask your parents, ask your grandparents. This was a thing. Like there were smoking sections and non-smoking sections. The idea that you could be on a plane and there's a quote unquote smoking section, that makes the whole fucking plane the smoking section. Like,
and people said, you can't not have smoking on a plane because people will have nick fits so bad that they will break apart the bathrooms. That people said this.
Yes.
They will, because people will break the rules, and people did.
Yes.
People like had fucking freakouts, but they got over it because what they would do is the second they got off the plane, they would light up. And then it was like the airport. Then they had smokers' lounges in the airport. So then they had to run to the lounge.
Yes.
And now most places you have to be outside.
Yes, correct. By the way, my school had a smoking area. And I'm not talking about for the teachers. It was for kids.
No, we were in the 80s. We were 80s teenagers, and they had a smokers' lounge outside, mind you. But yeah, they didn't stop it at all. Nobody bothered, I think. And they actually had this big ceramic disgusting thing to throw your butts in, because there were so many trash fires that were started from teenagers leaving their butts in the things. So anyway, 1988, lots of smoking. Lots of smoking.
It's just one of it's just one of those things that when we watch these movies from the 70s and 80s, it always clicks in my head where I'm like, oh my God, you can't even do that anymore. Like, it's like a totally different time. So the Charles Grodin character was you actually feel bad for this guy. He had a legit, or what he thought was a legit job at a legit accounting firm that turned out worked for the mob. So he decided to steal. He stole like what? Over $1 million, I think they say, from this mobster, and he gave it all to charity.
It's like $3 million. It wasn't even today. That's not that much, but it wasn't that much. But you're right. He gave most of it to charity, and he left a little bit aside to live on.
Yeah, and then he went on the run, and he is living in New York with his wife.
In Brooklyn Heights, in a townhouse with like no security except a dog,
except a little, a pretty little,
friendly,
little dog. By the way, like he's, oh no, Heidi. He might lick you to death. Like how terrible. No, he does bark and stuff like that. But yeah, De Niro tracks him down in record time.
Yeah.
Like, the FBI must not be looking very hard because De Niro finds him within 5 seconds. Like,
yeah. He steals the badge. Yaphet Kotto basically pegs him right away. He steals Yaphet Kotto's badge. They don't look anything alike, by the way. If you know who Yaphet Kotto is, look it up on IMDb. You would be like, what? He steals his badge, and then this is also 1988. He just makes a new badge and sticks his face on top of it. Now, where are they? Are they in D.C.? Where are they? Because he's taking a train up to New York to get him.
He starts in Chicago. No, because he's not in Chicago. He's in L.A. So he flies to L.A.?
He starts in L.A.?
I think so.
Okay, I get confused sometimes where they are.
Yeah, I do too, for sure. I think he flies from L.A. to New York. That's where he catches Grodin, and he's going to bring him back to L.A. So he tries to get him. He tries to get him on the plane, and Grodin, we don't know, is faking, by the way, but it turns out later he's faking. He has a panic attack on the plane, and the pilot,
very understanding pilot.
Yeah, it's like, and they were like, you can't force someone to fly if they don't want to fly. So he's like, okay, we're going to take the train. And like Charles Grodin's character's like, I love traveling by train. Like he's like, what a lovely room that we're going to be staying in. And then he like cuffs him and stuffs him in a bathroom. And he's like, I'm claustrophobic.
Like, he's constantly, and of course he is. And you can't do that to Robert De Niro treats him like shit. He really
does.
He does. And then apparently, Robert De Niro had a thing where he was like, he's a method actor, of course.
Yeah.
So he said to Charles Grodin, like they gave him rubber cuffs and plastic cuffs, and De Niro's like, no, you should wear the metal cuffs. You should know what it feels like. It should feel real. So he's always wearing the same sweater and the same overcoat, and for most of it, he had these. And I actually read that book, his Charles Grodin's book. It'd be so nice if you weren't here. I'm sorry, I'm saying it wrong.
Is that really
so nice if you were? It's yeah. It was like he was told this at a dinner party. He showed up, and apparently the couple had an argument before, and he didn't realize that he and his wife showed up, and the wife just turned to him in British, and she was very polite. She goes, "Excuse me, it'd be so nice if you weren't here." So they just turned around and left.
That's a great title for biography.
Isn't it?
The title, y'all title your autobiographies well, because that's what sells.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the show.
Yes, we will.
Our recommendations, because anyway, so he said in his book, he was like, great, plastic cuffs, rubber cuffs, fine, because he has to keep that in front of him all the time.
Yes.
But he says, anytime you work with somebody like a Robert De Niro, you want to act like you can keep up with him.
Mm-hmm.
You don't look like a pussy. You're like, yeah, I'll wear the real cuffs because he's being real. I'm going to be real. And so he kept the real cuffs, and he had those scars for years afterwards.
Yeah, De Niro
on his wrists.
I read that De Niro, of course, is like takes it because this is the kind of actor he is or was. I don't know if he still does these things, but he, palled like he like shadowed like real bounty hunters and like did all this stuff. And Charles Grodin's like, I made a phone call to my like financial advisor, and like talked to him for like an hour. That's cool. Like some people are just, some actors go all in, and some are like, that's why they call it acting. They like do their thing. But yeah, Charles Grodin is so funny in this. Like, no, he's just complaining through the whole thing about, I'm claustrophobic. I can't fly on planes. Like, and then he finally like they go to the dining car, and De Niro's just stuffing his face. He's like eating like fucking chicken wings and doing all this stuff. And they have like this totally funny conversation about like, why do you do those things to yourself? Like when you know it's bad for you. And they're just very different people, and all their conversations are so funny to me. And they're not. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
And isn't De Niro saying he wants to invest in a restaurant because he wants to get out of the business? And then Gordon's like, well, as your accountant, I would not advise you to do that. You're not my accountant. Then we find out that they're going, so they have to travel cross country, and John Ashton is following them. He's shadowing them because he wants to make some money too. Everyone wants a piece of Grodin. The mob wants a piece of him because he has information. And then the FBI wants him because he's got information, but the mob wants to kill him. And they go through Chicago, and it turns out this part I find needlessly confusing, but DeNiro was a cop in Chicago. He was undercover, and all the cops were on the take with the mob and drugs.
Yes.
And the 80s are all about cops and drugs and the mob. It's
Yes.
That's all people talked about and cared about. And he was going to bust in. There's a guy named Sonny that was in charge of it. And is that our mustachioed actor?
Dennis Farina.
Yes. Is that him?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. He was also he's in the TV series.
Crime Story.
Crime Story. I used to love that show.
It's good.
It was a good show. And they had Runaway as the TV theme song.
I don't remember.
My little runaway.
Yes.
Okay. He's also was in Law and Order one season.
Yeah, I love Dennis Farina.
Me too. Good Chicago accent.
Yeah.
He's the baddie. And so he's going through Chicago, and he meets up with this, and of course he hasn't seen his ex-wife many, many years. And the cops planted heroin on him, and the only thing he could do was leave. And of course, never speak to his family.
Yeah, for some reason, he just ditches his wife and his daughter.
Yeah.
And, this is the stuff where because it is like some of the comedies like really broad, and then there's like this real like character-based comedy between De Niro and Grodin. And then there's this part that's like, it's really serious, like this stuff where De Niro like goes back to the ex-wife, and it's like, because, by the way, John Ashton's character has canceled all of De Niro's credit cards, which is why they have no money, and he's finding it really hard to travel. And because passwords and security checks weren't a thing back then, by the way, Ashton's able to just call and cancel his credit cards like in a second. So De Niro and Grodin go to De Niro's ex-wife. She doesn't have much money. She gives him like $40 or whatever. The daughter stuff, I was like, that like hurts. Like, I think he says he hasn't seen her in 8 years or something. Yeah. Or 9 years, I forget. And it's like, she's in the 8th grade now. That means she hasn't seen him probably since kindergarten. And she like offers her babysitting money to him. I'm like, oh, it's so awful. And
he can't take it.
Yeah, and he doesn't take it. And but it's also like, I feel like in a lesser movie, they would have cut all of that shit out. And I'm glad they leave it in, actually, because I think it gives us some real insight into why Jack is the way he is. I kind of like that they don't like tie everything up in a neat little bow. Like, there's no like, and then Jack goes back to his wife in Chicago, or, and reveals that her husband is crooked and all. It doesn't do any of those things. It just addresses it, and they kind of move on. And I like that. And by the way, they leave that house in her amazing station wagon.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Her amazing 80s station wagon. The kind of station wagons that Margo and I like to talk about off the air, and wish that people would start restoring those 80s station wagons. Like the classic cars that they are. So, yeah, that stuff is like these little character moments that I'm glad they leave in. Or that Dennis Farina, who's always so good in everything, he's very menacing. Like when he finally gets Charles Grodin's character and he says, like, you're going to die tonight and I'm going to kill your wife. That's fucking scary. He's scary. Like, there's stakes to the movie is what I'm trying to get to in my roundabout way.
Yeah.
What else? Yes, so Grodin stole all the money, donated it to charity. Oh, I love when Grodin gives De Niro his whole speech about how he lives in denial, and that's why he eats all the shit that's bad for him and smokes all the time. And he's just like, cigarettes are killers. They're killers, don't you know? And he's just like, fuck off. Like, I'm going to punch you in the face. And like all the way he talks to Grodin through this whole movie, even though he kind of respects him. Like, it's fascinating. It's good.
Yeah, well, he's different from the average person that he's picking up and taking in, obviously.
Yeah, and he acknowledges, like, if he has a past history with the Dennis Farina character, he would love to see that man suffer. He's like, but it's also his job to bring in the Duke, to bring in Charles Grodin. It's his job. And he takes it very seriously. Like, he is honest. He's an honest person. And he means well. And he finally does land in the right place. Spoilers for Midnight Run. He does land in the right place. But it takes him a little while to get there.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a long movie. It's longer than I think it's a little bit longer than you think it's going to be. I mean, they are on a journey. They are going cross country. Yeah. Like, they're kind of going to all the different places. I mean, there's a point where they're in the Midwest and they're having chorizo and eggs. They're broke. And then they need to get some money. And he has Charles Grodin, like, fast talk his way into getting some cash. And that's a really funny scene.
Yes.
And then Charles Grodin, like, he thinks he's taking off, and then Robert De Niro just kind of could just jump everywhere and get on the train and go after him. Then Charles Grodin tries to take off in a plane.
Yeah, I love that. I love that Robert reveal.
It's really fantastic. And De Niro gets him down. I mean, like, they're constantly, like, you know, he tries to get away from him. You know, and he really goes for it. So there is some stakes there, and it is pretty exciting. In the end, De Niro does. I mean, there's a whole thing about there are these. I mean, it's very dated. It's like there's these computer discs, and they have information, and if we get the discs, we can. I mean, none of that matters. I mean, it doesn't matter at all.
No, because it's really about them. It's
about them.
Yeah. That's the stuff that works the most.
Right. So he passes him off at the airport. Once again, there's a scene of smoking, and like, are you with the smoking or the non-smoking section? I mean, honest to God, it's like all the smoking in this movie. But in the end, Sonny gets captured. He lets Charles Grodin go, and he gives Charles Grodin his watch as like a sign of like their friendship, because he's constantly checking his watch the whole time. That's his whole thing. Mm-hmm. And then Grodin gives him his money belt.
It turns out he had like $300,000 on him this entire time.
Like, in the time when they had like 50 cents on them, they could only get a cup of coffee.
There's like all these little things that, like, the fact that he faked a panic attack on a plane to get off, and then later, like, he's fucking trying to fly a plane, like, and he's like, sorry, bye, you know, or acting broke and like conning all this money out of that bar by pretending they're FBI agents and that it's counterfeit money. And this whole time he had money strapped to him that they could have used is funny. And the thing about the smoking too, there's so much smoking in this movie. There's a running joke about Agent Mosley, who keeps stealing John Ashton's cigarettes. Like, every time they cross paths, he takes his cigarettes from him and he's smoking them. And I love it's just a throwaway line where John Ashton's character says, "Why don't you quit smoking? It would be cheaper for the both of us." It's like just such a funny thing. Like, all the stuff with the FBI agents and the like running joke about Robert De Niro's character flashing that badge everywhere just cracks me up. It's so funny. The movie does feel a little longer than it needs to be, but I mean, maybe they trim up some of the Dennis Farina stuff to make it a little, because there is a lot of time that you spend with his like henchmen who are real dumb. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, maybe that's the stuff that they could have trimmed up to like shave off a good 10 or 15 minutes. But overall, like, this is such a fun movie to rewatch. It really
is. It's a great last section when he gives him the money belt, and so De Niro walks outside. He's in LA, and the cab pulls up, and he just, you know, he can't get an Uber or anything. Like, the cab pulls up and he says, "Do you have change for 1,000?" And the cab's like, "Fuck off," and he just takes off. And De Niro just like, "Guess I'm walking home."
And that's the end. You know?
That's the end. I love that.
Yeah, and it's got such a good score too. I feel like you kind of hear the score in trailers now. I think they use it a lot, and I'm looking it up. And of course, the music's by Danny Elfman. I should have known.
Right.
Like, it definitely has that, like, on the road comedy beat to it that just works. I mean, what a good road trip comedy.
Yeah, it's just a good solid 80s comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't use a computer or your phone to fix a thing, like, how do you handle, how do you problem solve your way through these situations?
Yeah.
It's fun. And it's funny.
And because DeNiro and Charles Grodin are so opposite, like,
yeah.
And it's not just the characters they're playing. These two actors are very different people. Like, their energies are very different. It's, the same, like, it's like when they put like when we did an episode on Defending Your Life. This isn't an action movie, and it's like Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep. These people have like very different energy that just happened to work together in that movie. Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin have very different energy about them. Like, the way they approach things, their interactions, their filmography before this movie. I think so much of what works about this movie is what we know about De Niro beforehand. So we're not expecting what we're seeing here from him.
Right.
It just fucking works. I really, really, really liked rewatching this one.
Yeah, same.
I could see like this one being like endlessly rewatchable for people, because it plays. You could put it on and do stuff and come back if you want. If you happen to be flipping around, which Margo and I were just talking about off mic, people don't do anymore.
Yeah, people don't do anymore. But also, like, if you're just curious, like, De Niro, if he's always been just like the analyze this movies or old to you, like, it's really good middle-aged De Niro work.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's super hot. He looks great. He's funny.
Yeah.
And it's great action work on his part. And he really commits. And Charles Grodin has just never been funnier. He's really,
for sure.
This is top work for him.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good. I was going to say something about De Niro. Damn it. Oh, about how, like, he is like more known for comedy now. Like, he does. Yeah. Analyze This was good. I like that one. But then he did all those like Meet the Fockers and Meet the Parent. I don't like that stuff. It's just not my jam. But like, he's real good in this one. It's so good. I read that originally they wanted Tom Hanks. They wanted Tom Hanks at one point, or no. Sorry, reverse that. De Niro wanted to do Big. Did you read that?
He was originally scheduled to do Big, which is, well, yikes.
That would have been fucking weird.
It wouldn't have been funny.
It wouldn't have been funny. Well, and you've pointed out many issues with the movie Big, by the way. And if you haven't heard it, go to F This Movie and listen to Margo and Patrick Bromley talk about Big, because it's a good one. There's things about Big you may not remember correctly. And I wonder how that movie would have turned out with De Niro in that role, because so much of what works about Big is because of Tom Hanks.
It is the charm of Tom Hanks that makes that movie work.
Yeah. I also read that Harrison Ford was interested at one point in playing the De Niro character in this movie, and they were going to get Chevy Chase to play Charles Grodin.
Well, that would have been interesting.
I'm like, Harrison Ford 100% could have probably do this role. I don't know if I'd buy Chevy Chase in that. Like, he's too...
He would be all mugging it up.
Yeah, he's too smart ass. He's not deadpan enough, at least for what I would want for that role. And then I read a couple other people that were up for Jack Walsh. It was like Mel Gibson. It's like everybody, basically. Mel Gibson, Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell probably would have been good too. Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton would have been good.
He would have been good, yeah.
Yeah. Gene Hackman. I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Nah.
And then for Charles Grodin's role, there was talk. These two make sense to me: Bill Murray or Steve Martin. I think
yes,
either of those. That would have worked. I think.
Yeah.
There was also talk at one point of changing the character of Charles Grodin's to a woman and getting Cher.
Cher?
Yeah. Isn't that weird? I think that's... Yeah, it would have added like a sexual tension that I'm like, I don't think this movie needs that.
No, it doesn't need the sexual tension.
No. It's perfect just the way it is.
Do you want to hear about the movies that came out when this movie came out?
Yes.
So it came out July 20th, 1988. Mm-hmm. So these are the the top 10 around that time.
Okay.
Damn it. Phone. Behave. Okay. Jane Weedlin, number 10, Rush Hour.
Oh, you're talking about songs.
Songs. Songs,
okay.
Guys. That's what I do.
Yes.
Number 9, Terrence Trent D'Arby, Sign Your Name.
Fucking love Terrence Trent D'Arby.
Me too. That was a great album. Pebbles, Mercedes Boy. Mercedes.
That's a good song.
Mama Mercedes.
I love that song.
Good songs. Eric Carmen, Make Me Lose Control.
I know the song, but
the band Breathe, Hands to Heaven.
Oh yeah. I know that song too. Meh.
Cheap Trick, The Flame.
I used to really like that song.
Yeah, I love Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
Steve Winwood, Roll With It. Okay. He had a comeback for a while.
Steve Winwood so it was like Roll With It, Higher Love.
Yeah,
Valerie, I think is the name of that one.
Yeah.
He had a whole comeback, and I was here for Higher Love's a jam. I still love that song, Higher Love, with Shaka Khan. So good.
In Excess, New Sensation. Good song.
Fucking love In Excess.
Me too. Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me. Great
one of
song.
My favorites.
And number 1, Richard Marx, Hold On to the Nights.
Richard Marx, Twitter's king. I love me some Richard Marx.
That's how I found out Olivia Newton-John died this week. It was first announced for me on Twitter by Richard Marx.
Oh, that was such a bummer. That one hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, that one hurt.
Yeah.
That one really, really hit hard.
Yeah. She had breast cancer multiple times. But also just, all of her music was so good. And I didn't love all of her movies, but she's so good in Grease. And we've done an episode on Xanadu, and she's so beautiful in it. And such a good sport in that movie too. Really, it's, the movie's weird, but it's pretty watchable. I love her. That one.
Her voice was so beautiful.
Seriously, so beautiful. Yeah. So good. Do you want to hear the other movies that came out in 88?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought you were.
No, you're fine. Yeah. So we've done 88 movies a few times. So I tried to go real deep and pull up some other ones that maybe we haven't mentioned before. Forgive me if we have, but I really tried. Switching Channels.
That movie is batshit.
If y'all don't remember this one, it's Burt Reynolds, Kathleen Turner, and Christopher Reeve, and it's a remake of His Girl Friday. It's
not great.
It's something.
And they hated each other. Kathleen Turner and Burt Reynolds.
This does not surprise me, actually.
She said he was really mean.
This also does not surprise me.
Yeah.
I don't think he was in a good space at that time, and her star was still she was a big star, and his was oh yeah, Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
At the time, Christopher Reeve, great in everything he does though.
Loved him.
Me too. Running on Empty.
That's with Fisher Stevens, River Phoenix.
Yes, River Phoenix. Christine Lottie, Judd Hirsch. It's Martha Plimpton's in it. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Here's one where when I worked at the movie theater, people were trying to convince me that this guy was going to be a huge star. Did you ever see Young Einstein?
Yes. Yahoo Serious?
Yahoo Serious. Was he from Australia?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't play here, by the way. Like, that movie flopped, but I remember people being like, no, Yahoo Serious is going to be huge. I'm like, if you say so.
They were trying different people from Australia for a while because it was after Crocodile Dundee.
Exactly.
So they were trying like, well, what about Jocko?
Oh,
what about
right?
And then they were like, what about Yahoo Serious? And like, you like In Excess? We're like, yeah, In Excess, okay, but not this.
Sorry. Yes to In
no.
Excess. No to Yahoo Serious. Sorry, Yahoo Serious, if you're listening. Mississippi Burning.
Bummer.
A total bummer. I really like all of these movies. Jackie Chan's Police Story 2.
I don't know it. Sorry.
I love old Jackie Chan movies. Rambo 3.
I don't know Rambo 3, sorry.
Nor I have a feeling I know what happens in it, but I don't need to see it. Did you ever see Shakedown?
Yeah, I love Shakedown. It takes place in Coney Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole, it's Peter, RoboCop.
Yeah, Peter Weller.
Peter Weller and Sam
Elliott, yeah.
Sam Elliott, they're cops in New York. And there's a whole shootout in Coney Island on the roller coaster. God damn it, the name of the roller coaster.
Oh, I don't know.
Fuck. It's by the Wonder Wheel. Anyway, but there's a shootout on the roller coaster.
Ooh.
And the cyclone. And then the cyclone just goes off the rails and they're shooting at each other while it's off the rails.
Damn.
It's 88 Coney Island. It's fantastic.
Ooh.
It's a stupid movie, but it's fun.
I remember really liking it, and I like these types of movies, so maybe I'll rewatch it. Maybe I'll rewatch it tonight. That would be really
I wrote about it for my book. It's in my book.
Oh, okay. Well, I will. Maybe I'll rewatch it tonight because I like stuff like this. And if you're thinking, oh, that's where the song Shakedown by Bob Seger comes from. No,
it does not.
That's from Beverly Hills Cop 2.
No, it opens with Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
Yeah, it has a whole other soundtrack to it.
All right. I'm going to watch it.
It was one of my favorites that I watched, though. That and Angel Heart take place at Coney Island.
I didn't know Angel Heart did, too.
Yeah, it begins in Coney Island. And it's Mickey Rourke and Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
And supposedly De Niro hated Mickey Rourke so much that Mickey Rourke says De Niro banned him from being in The Irishman like 30 years later.
That makes sense to me.
People hate Mickey Rourke. Either
they do.
They hate him.
Yeah. By the way, if y'all want to know more about Mickey Rourke,
no,
there's a whole episode in You Must Remember This, where they talk about the movie 9.5 Weeks and Wild Orchid, and they talk about Mickey Rourke. And dude's on my list, just saying.
Yeah.
A couple more movies. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Okay, here's the thing. I like the Halloween movies. I just like them. And I actually like Halloween 4. I think it's entertaining. And then the last one is Child's Play with Chucky.
Not a Chucky person.
Now, that first Child's Play I saw in the theater, and I was like, well, that was entertaining. And I've seen some of the other ones, and they've all gotten like kind of crazier and crazier as they've gone on. They're not for me, but I know that people love them. But I do like Halloween movies.
If I'm going to go see any of them, it's going to be a Halloween movie.
Yeah. I don't know. Something about Halloween movies work for me.
Chucky, I'd throw him out the window. Like, we're done.
That's kind of one of the things about the Chucky.
Stomp on him. It's over.
I'm like, can't you just kick him? But, like I said, I haven't seen them all. Maybe there's a whole other thing going on. Let's take a break, and then we'll talk about what else we're dorking out about. My friend, what else are you dorking out about?
I got the Jeanette McCurdy book.
Yes.
I'm glad my mother died. She was a Nickelodeon star. She was in iCarly. She was a big deal. She had her own album. She was friends with, she's also in Cat and, was it Sam and Cat? It was
what is that one called? I know what.
Yeah, because she was friends with.
I think it's called Sam and Cat.
Sam and Cat. Like she was with Miranda Cosgrove in one show, and then she was with Ariana Grande in another show, and they were shows that were run by Dan Schneider, who's a real big piece of shit.
Yep.
And, when we're just waiting for the media to, for somebody to be able to come forward and talk about this guy who created all these shows for Nickelodeon and terrorized a lot of people. And anyway, she's talking about how her mother was really abusive and pushed her into show business, and she was very successful, but it was like for a lot of child stars, it was a really, it wreaked havoc on her life, her personal life, her body, her mental health, her physical health, her family relationships, her friendships, her personal relationships. And she's witty and she's smart and she's honest and she's really, really brave. And it was a really fast read for me, really quick read. And I really appreciated it. And it was one of those books, like it downloaded at 12, like midnight on Tuesday. I immediately started reading it. I finished it very quickly. It sold out on Amazon quickly.
Yeah, this never happens, by the way. Never happens. It's sold out.
Me really happy to hear that when books are doing well, because it's just an industry that, anyway, but it's available on ebooks and on audiobook. It's available on the Libby app, but I'm sure it's on hold for months if you want to get it at your library, but I do recommend it. And it's just fantastic. And I started watching on Amazon A League of Their Own.
How is it?
It's okay.
Okay.
It's Abby something.
Oh,
damn it.
I know. She's from Broad City.
Yes, and she's her girlfriend. They're engaged. Her fiance. I'm so bad with fucking names. I gotta get. I'm gonna
look it up. Abby Jacobson.
Abby Jacobson.
Oh my gosh, Darcy Carden's in there.
They're engaged.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I know, and I watch and I'm like, are they in love here? Did they fall in love in this scene? Did they fall in love in I do that when I watch things.
I didn't realize that they were engaged in real life.
They are.
Oh my gosh. That's adorable.
I know. They're adorable.
Everybody
drink. I love the movie so much, and I can see the glaring blind spots in the movie, which were blind spots in America.
Yeah.
In the culture. It's trying to tell two different stories, African-American history and African-American women and gay women.
Ah.
And talk about cigarette smoking. Fucking A. Like, everyone's puffing on a smoke. It's a great cast.
Yeah. Oh my God, Nick Offerman's in there?
Nick Offerman is doing the Tom Hanks part.
All right. I'm moving this shit up my list.
I watched the first 3 episodes. It's a little uneven for me. I think it's 1 season that's out now. I don't know if they've started filming a second season. I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah.
I'm saying like it's B to a B minus.
Okay.
It's not A. It's not The Bear. I'm not like.
Come on now. That's not.
But that's like next level.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
that's
gonna check it out as someone who like. By the way, we've done an episode on A League of Their Own. We're huge fans of the movie. We love the movie.
We love the movie. It's a great movie. It really is. And it's timeless and it's got everything in there. But there's a huge, if I'm saying like, what would they miss? They miss gay women, which made up a huge part of the league.
Yes.
everybody in the movie was like insanely beautiful, which is not that the women weren't great, beautiful, but they weren't like model beautiful like Hollywood makes them, which leaves out a lot of people. It also, gay women are not represented.
Women of color were not represented.
Women of color, absolutely not represented. There's a lot of stories that were just not being told. Yeah. And, it's a combination of Hollywood. It's a combination of like, I loved Penny Marshall, but she had her own stuff, what she liked and didn't like.
Right.
And it's what sold tickets. Yeah. And what people wanted. They wanted Madonna. They wanted Gina Davis. And that's what sold. And it's hard to argue with that. And I'm glad that they are really focused. I mean, these women are great athletes. And you love baseball. So I think, and a lot of it's in Chicago, which, you and I both hung out in Chicago last year. I think it needs a little more polishing in the writing or something. Yeah. It's not 100% there. Okay. But it's a good, solid try. I hope they have a second season. I just think there's a little, like I said, there's two different stories that they're telling. And because in real life they didn't intermingle and it's not a fantasy story, it's not like they're saying, so we're going to pretend that, I'm only on episode 3, so I don't know if they do have I don't know if they have like a black and white team.
Got you. Because so in the real world, everybody,
it was segregated. There was no black team. There was no black and white players working together, playing together. It was segregated until the 50s.
Yeah, including men, by the way. So like there was a Negro league and there was just the National Baseball League.
And didn't Buck from the Negro League, Buck died last week, I think it was. Okay, sorry. Brain's, it was the heat. I'm just blaming everything on the heat. Anyway, it's so I've only watched 3 episodes and I think there's 6 or 7 on there. Okay. I don't know if what they're gonna do is just have the women. There's a plant where some of the women are now working because the men are at war. Yeah. And so there's some black women working at the plant with the white women. Okay. And so I don't know if they're going to then have them on the field as well. I don't know if they're going to do that with the storyline. Like I said, I'm just 3 episodes in, so that's how they're going to change the story. Or if it's just going to be segregated in that way as well.
Yeah. So it's tricky because like, do they want to be historically accurate or do you want to just tell a different story and do like kind of a colorblind casting? Right. Kind of like they did with Bridgerton, by the way. Like, which, by the way, Bridgerton's a fictional thing. It's like, it's just a show. It's based on books. It's not like history, quote unquote, but yeah, it's a choice they have to make. Like, do you want to tell what it was really like in the women's baseball league in the 40s? Or do you want to just talk about what it was like to be women playing baseball in the 40s, not white women?
And it's gay women, and it's also black gay women and white gay women, and it's talking in code and having to also asserting yourself as a person. It's interesting. I think it's anyway, I'm just 3 episodes in, so maybe I'm talking out of my butt, but it's just right now I'm giving it a grade B. I'm going to stick with it. I'll stick with it. And I've also watched the Elvis movie.
Oh yeah, you have thoughts.
I have thoughts. I think I've decided I think I'm going to buy it because I want to watch it more. I think this is the first, because I've watched a lot of Elvis stuff. We did an episode about Elvis for What a Creep. And I've done a lot of research on Elvis and read a lot of books about Elvis. This is the first time in all of my life and all the Elvis paraphernalia that I have ingested, taken in, that I finally said, oh, that's why he wore the jumpsuit. Okay. That makes sense. That's not, sure, it's tacky, but I get it now. He's just putting on a show. you know what I mean? Like, I get it now. It's not like he was so drugged out he didn't. I get it now. I just think it's just part of the showmanship. I get it now. And the actor who plays him is really great. They don't age him very much or fatten him up at all. Mm-hmm. So we don't get chubby Elvis. He just kind of like, he's real pretty and then he croaks and it's like, what happened? That was really shocking.
Austin Butler.
Who's from Australia?
Maybe.
He's beautiful.
Yeah, I get it.
His eyelashes deserve an Oscar.
No, he's American.
He's American? He's
American.
He dated Cindy Crawford's daughter, Kaya.
Oh.
He's beautiful. He's very talented. He's really good. He does the voice really well. The woman that plays Priscilla's really good.
Olivia DeYoung.
Very good. It's a spectacle.
Yeah.
They're telling a lot of stories in a really over the top. I think I get Baz Luhrmann now.
See, that is interesting because Baz Luhrmann is very hit or miss for me.
Same.
Like, I remember seeing Moulin Rouge, which, by the way, is on our list. It has been requested. Yes. And the first, 10 minutes of Moulin Rouge, I was like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like,
gave me a headache.
I was overwhelmed. And it pretty much ruined the rest of the movie for me. I was like, I had to see the movie twice because the first 10 or 15 minutes, I was so overwhelmed by the spectacle of it. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. And that has rarely happened to me in a theater where I was it was like sensory overload or something. And the rest of the movie, I was like, my brain was broken or something. And I just couldn't deal with it.
Right.
So I'm interested that Elvis is the one that puts it together for you. It makes me want to watch Elvis.
I don't know. I think it could just be I've watched so many Elvis things that I kind of was like, I knew the beats and I'm like, oh, that's Sister Rosetta Tharpe. That's, that's this guy. It's Jerry Schilling. That's blah, blah, blah. It was messy, but I kind of appreciated because who is he playing? He's playing Elvis for fuck's sakes. It's an over the top character. It kind of fits for me. I think when you try to play Elvis small is when I don't get it. I think it kind of makes sense. Like if they ever do Michael Jackson, it should be done the same way.
Ooh.
It would make sense to me. But it's also the same thing. But he's also a creep, and and they don't really get into that.
Okay.
But they do really get into the '68 special, which I always thought was amazing. Elvis's 1968 special when he wears the black leathers and he looks really great. But like I said, it's the first time I watched it and I was like, oh, now I get the Vegas show. I would actually go and see that. I get it. I would be in the crowd. I was like, because what else are you going to see in Vegas at that time?
Right.
Right. I would be like, this would be really fucking entertaining. I would think this was fun.
Well, and he was still a big star.
He was. It's hard. It's hard to explain to people. I had a conversation with my writers group and we were talking about different famous people when they died. And someone who's a lot younger than me, I tried to explain to them that when Michael Jackson died, I said, I was really sad. And I had a younger friend that was like, why were you sad? Because to her, Michael Jackson was always crazy.
Yeah.
He was always the nut who had he had the chimp. He had the oxygen tank. He had little kid. He was a weirdo. It was on trial. And I said, no, he wasn't always that way. He used to be cool. He was always talented, but he used to be interesting and he was on the vanguard. He was ahead of the trend.
Yeah.
And so was Elvis.
Exactly. And as time went on, he got weirder and weirder and
right. It destroyed him.
And it destroyed him and he died. And you're like, that's really fucking sad.
It's really sad. It really destroyed him. It really did. And he did it to himself.
Yeah.
And there's some things he has to take responsibility for.
Sure.
It's just narcissism and all that crap. But it's it's always fun to see somebody who's super duper talented and see them at their best and doing it. It's really fun for me.
I don't think we're going to get a Michael Jackson movie until like it's going to be years and years and years from now.
Well, I mean, and his fans are just like,
oh,
there's not much you can really.
I'm like, we're going to cut this part out.
Like, there's a lot. There, I mean, but the beats would be there. It would be like Diana Ross meets, his dad beating him, by the way, and Gary and Deanna, right? Then it's Diana Ross, discovers them, and it's Berry Gordy. Then it would be like the moonwalk, and then Thriller. Do you remember? Like I tried to explain to her, like Thriller, MTV was like
video.
If you want to watch Thriller, it's on every hour on the hour.
Yes.
At 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, right? So you'd run home from school.
Yes. To
watch Thriller because we didn't have VCR. My parents would hook up the VCR if we wanted to watch something.
Yes.
So we'd run home to watch Thriller. Like it was, because we didn't know what a weirdo he was. So he wasn't yet.
Yeah. We didn't have access to like all the information that you have now. Like there was no internet. There was no nothing. All you knew is like what you read in a magazine and what you heard on the radio. You didn't know all this stuff about him.
No, and that's my mom felt that way about Elvis. She's like, we didn't know he was doing drugs. We didn't know about the girls. We didn't know. She's like, he just was like, we thought he was a sweet guy that just liked to dance. Like, that's all. So, who liked his mama and peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
Right.
Like, that's, so it was sad when he was gone. It was like, because he was so young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it on my list. You've convinced me.
It's a spectacle. I'm just telling you. It's a big, messy spectacle. It's long. Tom Hanks, wow, he's going for a thing. Mm-hmm. And the makeup is going, once again, they're not going to hire a fat actor, and the actor's not going to get fat. So you're just going to have to deal.
Okay. I will check it out.
Yeah.
These are good recs. I have been watching... I decided I needed a movie theater break yesterday, so I went to the Alamo because the theater was empty. That doesn't mean this movie's bombing, by the way, because I went to like a mid-afternoon show, and I saw Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Do you know this movie? It's the one with Pete Davidson.
No, what is it?
Okay. It's a horror movie. It's a bunch of 20-somethings get together at this like family mansion during a hurricane. It's like they call it a hurricane party. They're going to be like all together during this hurricane and ride it out. And there's a bunch of them together. And it starts with this like kind of figurative backstabbing. And then it turns into literal backstabbing and people start dying one by one. It's a real like Gen Z whodunit, basically. I liked it. Actually, it's Pete Davidson is like probably one of the bigger stars for people in this movie. He plays one of the 20-somethings. Lee Pace shows up in this. I really like Lee Pace. He's very handsome, and I just like him. So he's in there. Did you ever see Shiva Baby?
Mm-mm.
Okay, that one is streaming, I think, on HBO. I think you would like it. It's really good. Rachel Sennott is the star of that movie. She's in this. And then Maria Baklova from the second Borat movie is one of the leads. And it's these two like 20-something girls, or like they're in, like new in their relationship. And she's like, let's go to this hurricane party. Like, let's come and meet my people. And then things just kind of spiral out of control. People start dying, and then they start accusing each other, like, you're the murderer, you're the murderer. I will say I didn't see the end coming, and I don't think that happens very often. I'm humble brag, I'm super smart. Like, I didn't see the end coming. That I was like, oh. So I think it's entertaining. I think it's good. It's definitely worth streaming when it comes out for streaming. Is it on streaming
or no?
I don't think it's worth. I don't think it's on streaming yet. And like I said, I went at the last minute and checked, and there was like 5 other people in the theater, and I was like, perfect. So that's why I went and saw it. It's good. I liked it. I think it's fun. I think it has some very interesting things to say about Gen Z. There's a lot of like, that's ableist and you're gaslighting me and like these kind of things. And like, you know, someone's like, how, you know, you hate listen to my podcast and like all this stuff that's like, it's just, I really liked it. I think it's good. I have also been watching the 3rd season of Never Have I Ever.
I've never seen it. Never have I ever.
I don't know why. I mean, it's very, very watchable. I watch the shit out of the show when new episodes drop. I binge it. I don't binge a lot of stuff. I binge the show. Like, I have like 2 episodes left. It just dropped yesterday. Like, I find the show very, very watchable. It's super easy to watch. It's very sweet. I think the characters are funny. It's got the voiceover narration by John McEnroe. He's really funny. I really like the show. And every time they drop a new season, it seems to be a surprise to me. And I stop whatever I'm doing and I watch every single episode. I think it's really, really great. And then the last one I wanted to mention was, have you watched this one yet? I know this one's streaming. I think it's on Hulu right now. Good Luck to You, Leo Grand.
No.
Okay, this is the one with Emma Thompson, and I'm looking up his name, Daryl McCormick. And it's a woman in her late 50s whose husband has passed away, and she decides to hire a sex worker, and it is played by Daryl McCormick. He's very handsome, and Emma Thompson is the woman. And it's just they like meet a couple of times. Like it's like a series of conversations as they're it's pretty quiet. Not quite as maybe sexy as I thought it was going to be when I rented it. I was like, ooh, Emma Thompson gets a sex worker. I'm in. But they have a lot of conversations about like what he does, why she's hiring somebody. She reveals that she's never had an orgasm and she wants to get there. And it's really a lot of conversations. This probably could be a play. I don't think it's based on a play, but it feels like a play because a lot of it takes place in like a single hotel room. And they talk about it, about what they're doing. There is some nudity, I will say. So if that sort of thing bothers you, this one maybe not for you. But I really like what they're talking about.
The nudity believers are
here they come. Here they come. I really like what it has to say, though, about like the roles that women take in marriage and family, and just kind of how she just lets a lot of shit slide throughout her life. And finally, like, her husband has passed away and now she can start like taking care, and her kids are growing up, and she starts thinking about how to take care of herself. And obviously these are things that are going to click with me right now. So I think it's a really good movie. It's streaming on Hulu, so I don't even think you have to pay for it if you want to watch it. It's a good one.
There's some great stuff streaming right now, man.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And Hulu's got a lot of good stuff. I also watched, I wasn't even going to mention this, and now I just remembered I hadn't mentioned it yet. I also watched the new Predator movie. I didn't even know really it was going to be a Predator movie until I saw, I think Patrick Bromley from F This Movie tweeted something out about it. And I was like, it's a Predator movie? And so I watched it. It's called Prey. And it's set in, like, I guess it would be the 1800s. And it's like a Comanche tribe. And the Predator shows up and starts picking them off one by one. And the lead is a girl, a teenage girl, and her dog. And they fight the Predator. And,
that sounds great.
And I think it's really good. I like it more than anything else here I just mentioned. I like Prey.
Wow.
I'm like, I really like Prey. Like, I think it's really, really good. If you want to know if the dog dies, you could send me a DM and I'll tell you if the dog dies. Because for some people, that's a deal breaker. Like, Or maybe I'll just tell people. Should I tell people? Is that a big deal? The dog doesn't die. I looked it up because I won't watch something where the dog dies. The dog doesn't die, everybody. The dog's going to be fine. By the way, the predator could murder like thousands of people, and I was like, that's fine. But if he hurts the dog, I'm like, fuck this movie.
There was some movie with Idris Elba, and there was a dog in the movie, and they actually had it in the commercial, like, the dog doesn't die. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Wait, there's a website, I think. Yeah. There's a website, it's like, does the dog die? And you could go to it and type in certain shows or movies, and I'm like, I need it. My anxiety level is too high.
Sometimes I can handle it. Sometimes I'm fine. It's just a part of the story. I know they don't really kill the animal. Yes. But sometimes I'm like, it's just too much of a layer of bummer that I don't need. I
can't go there. Like, yeah. By the way, I'm also the same way when it's babies. I don't want people to assume that, it's not baby.
No.
It's the reason I had to bail on The Walking Dead. They added a baby, and I was like, fuck this. Like, I couldn't do it.
No, by the way, Sophie's Choice. You probably don't want to watch that one.
No, I don't. No, I don't. That's another one where I'm like, no, I can't do it. But I think Prey's really good. I think it's like, I think the Predator is really creepy. Like, I mean, the Predator in the movie, like I like the first Predator very much. Actually,
that's a good movie.
The one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think is super entertaining. I remember liking Predator 2 just fine, and then after that, it's been like diminishing returns for me. But I think this one's really good. I like what they did with it. It's a twist on it. I recommend. Also streaming on Hulu.
Hulu's great.
It's worth the money right now. Damn you, Hulu. I can't quit you.
I can't quit you now.
I think that's plenty. That's plenty of Ricks.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I'm so glad we talked about Midnight Run, though. This was a really fun rewatch for me.
This was fantastic.
I needed a comedy, too. So this was a good one. If you like the sound of our voices, we also co-host a podcast called What a Creep, where we talk about creeps of the past and the present. And right now, our episode is out about David O. Russell, the director. Please listen. You could find Dorking Out at dorkingoutshow.com, and you could email us at dorkingoutshow@gmail.com. We take requests. So if you have a movie you want us to dork out about, please send it our way. We love that. Where can people find you on the internet, Margo?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Brooklyn Fit Chick. My site is brooklynfitchick.com. And I am on TikTok at Margo Donahue.
And if you liked all the stuff we were talking about where things are filmed, Margo has a book coming out called Filmed in Brooklyn. And it's coming out in October, right? And you can
and you can pre-order it now on Amazon.
Please do it. It's going to be.
Thank you.
It's going to be so good. I'm really excited for my friend. You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. So thanks for talking about Midnight Run with me, my friend.
Hey, Agent Foster Grits.
You're going to suffer from fistophobia. What was that accent?